You know that feeling, right? The constant stream of updates, the nonstop notifications. It feels like technology is just moving way too fast to keep up. And it's exciting, sure, but it can also be, well, just plain exhausting.
Does it ever feel like you're just running to catch a train that's already pulling out of the station? That the world you grew up in is kind of fading away right in front of you? Well, if you feel that way, you are definitely not alone. And what's really wild is that this exact feeling was predicted more than 50 years ago.
Yep, way back in 1970, a futurist named Alvin Toffler wrote a huge, game-changing book called Future Shock. And he gave a name to that specific anxiety we all feel, calling it the dizzying disorientation brought on by the premature arrival of the future. He wasn't talking about new gadgets. He was talking about how the incredible speed of change would mess with our heads.
So, let's dive into Toffler's big idea. He argued this wasn't just some vague feeling of being stressed out. No, he saw future shock as a real, legitimate condition. Think of it like a sickness of change, caused not by the future itself, but by the fact that it's showing up way too fast.
Okay, so here's the absolute core of it. Future shock is what happens when our brains are just overstimulated. It's when the world outside is changing faster than our ability to process it all. Put it this way. It's a total mismatch between the world's speed and our own internal clock. So what's causing this mismatch? Toffler said it all boils down to two massive forces. The first is acceleration, the idea that the speed of change is actually speeding up, and the second is transience, this growing feeling that nothing is permanent anymore. Let's break those two down. All right, first up, acceleration. Toffler's big idea here was that for most of human history, the pace of change was like a gentle sloping hill. But now it's become a sheer cliff face that we are all desperately trying to climb. Think about it like this. It's not just that things are changing. The really crucial part is that the rate of change is accelerating exponentially. The time between huge world-altering breakthroughs is shrinking, cramming more and more change into a single human lifetime than ever before in history. Toffler had a brilliant way to show this using the history of transportation. I mean, just look at this. It took us thousands of years to get from an 8-mile-per-hour camel to a 20-mile-per-hour chariot. Then it took almost 3,500 times more years to hit 100 miles an hour with the steam train. But in just the last century or so, we went from that to jets and rockets. That explosive jump, that's the accelerative thrust. And this isn't just about speed, it's economic too. Get this. Toffler calculated that because of compounding growth, the world would be producing 32 times as much stuff by the time a person reached old age compared to when they were born. Just try to imagine that. The world you die in is literally 32 times more full of everything than the one you were born in. Okay, so that's the accelerative thrust. But all that speed has a major side effect, and that brings us to Toffler's second force, transience. When everything is moving so fast, it starts to feel like nothing really sticks around for very long. Toffler actually coined this phrase, throwaway society, to describe what he saw coming, a world where our connections to things are more and more temporary. And he wasn't just talking about plastic cups and paper plates. He meant our relationships to places, to companies, to ideas, and even to other people. Okay, this is probably my favorite story from his book. He once sent his 12-year-old daughter to a supermarket a few blocks away. She came back, couldn't find it, and said it must have been torn down. Her first thought wasn't, oh, I must be on the wrong street. It was, they must have demolished and replaced a whole supermarket since the last time I was here. That right there, that's the mindset of transience.
And you can see this decline of permanence everywhere you look. We subscribe and rent instead of own. We move for jobs so often he called us corporate gypsies. Our jobs are less about a stable career and more about temporary projects, what he called adhocracies. Even our friendships can feel more fleeting. The solid ground beneath our feet feels, well, less solid. So that was Toffler's theory all the way back in 1970. The huge question is, was he right? Did he nail it? Well, let's take a look at some really recent data from the Pew Research Center and see how his predictions are holding up today. The connection is, honestly, it's startling. Toffler warned that a constant bombardment of newness would stress us out. You fast forward to today, and what does the research show? Widespread public caution, even anxiety, about the very tech that's supposed to define our future. It's like we're watching his prediction play out in real time. Take a look at this. When you ask Americans about putting computer chips in their brains,
A whopping 56% say it's a bad idea for society. Only 13% are all in. That's not just a little hesitation. That's a huge number of people saying, whoa, hold on. This feels like it's coming way too fast. That premature arrival of the future he talked about. And it's not just the sci-fi stuff either. This is about technology that's practically here, like driverless cars. Even with those, more Americans think they're a bad idea for society than a good one. This kind of broad skepticism in the face of massive, rapid change is a textbook symptom of future shock. But this chart right here might be the most telling of all. Gene editing. Yeah, the public is split pretty evenly on whether it's good or bad. But look at the biggest slice of that pie. 39% of people are just not sure. That huge chunk of uncertainty, that is the dizzying disorientation Toffler was writing about, perfectly captured in a modern poll. So if we're all living through future shock, what on earth are we supposed to do about it? Are we just doomed to feel this constant state of overwhelm? Well, luckily, Toffler didn't think so. And this is probably the most hopeful part of his whole work. He didn't just point out the problem and walk away. He truly believed that if we understand these forces of change, we can actually create strategies to ride the wave instead of getting crushed by it. He offered some really practical tips. First, he said, create stability zones. In a world that's always shifting, you need an anchor. Hold on to old friendships, keep a lifelong hobby, find things that ground you. Second, he suggested using situational groups. Basically, find other people who are going through the same big change you are. New parents, new job, whatever. They can be your support system. And third, he said we need to develop a future sense. Instead of just letting change happen to you, try to anticipate it. Thinking about what's coming next turns that anxiety into a feeling of preparation. It's incredible, really. Toffler's diagnosis from 1970 feels more on the money today than ever before. The acceleration, the transience, it's all baked into our modern lives, and you can see it in our anxieties about the future. So he leaves us with a question. It's not about if change is coming, because it's already here. The real question is, how are you going to adapt?